Let's talk about Theodore Roosevelt for a second. Back in 1876, before he was president of the United States, before he grew his epic mustache that I sadly will never be able to equal, he was just a freshman at Harvard University. And as Edmund Morris points out in his biography, Roosevelt had a ton of interests at the time. Boxing, dance lessons, bodybuilding, naturalism, and many, many more. So many, in fact, that he had barely any time to spend studying compared to his peers. And yet Roosevelt excelled at Harvard. During his freshman year, he took 7 courses, and out of those, he earned honor grades in 5 of them. So how exactly did he do that? In the book Deep Work, the author Cal Newport explains that Roosevelt would begin his scheduling by considering the 8 hours from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. He would then remove the time spent in recitation and classes, his athletic training, which was once a day, and lunch. The fragments that remained were then considered time dedicated exclusively to studying. As noted, these fragments didn't usually add up to a large number of total hours, but he would get the most out of them by working only on schoolwork during these periods and doing so with a blistering intensity. To put that another way, Roosevelt used the time pressure caused by his busy schedule to amplify his concentration. And as a result, he spent far fewer hours doing studying and homework than his peers, but he still did really well in his classes. And that's the overall goal here. You click this video because you want to do homework faster, but you also want to do a good job of it. You don't want to phone it in or just skip it altogether. Of course, building an intense work ethic like Teddy Roosevelt will definitely get you part of the way there, but there are also some more tactical decisions and changes that you can make to the way you work that are going to help you crush those homework assignments more quickly. And that's what I want to focus on in this video. To begin, we're going to look at something called the hard start, jump to easy technique, which is a test-taking strategy talked about in the book A Mind for Numbers by Barbara Oakley. To use this technique, essentially you look over your test before you start and identify which problems are difficult and which problems are easy. Then you jump straight into one of the difficult ones. But crucially, once you get stuck on that difficult problem, you have to disengage and go to one of the easy ones. Then, after you've solved a few of the easy ones, you can jump back, and more often than not, you're going to find that insights that weren't there before are going to come to the forefront in your mind, and you're going to be able to solve that problem. This technique works so well because it engages both of your main modes of thinking, your focused mode and your diffused mode. And A Mind for Numbers spends a lot of time talking about both of these modes and explaining why using both of them is crucial for solving tough problems. To go through it really quickly, the focused mode is what you use when you directly concentrate on a problem and you try to work through it logically. And this is the state of mind that you start in with pretty much any problem, whether it's solving a calculus equation or trying to flank your enemy team in Overwatch. By contrast, Oakley says that diffused mode thinking is what happens when you relax your attention and just let your mind wander. This relaxation can allow different areas of the brain to hook up and return valuable insights. And she goes on to note that diffuse mode insights often flow from preliminary thinking that's been done in the focused mode. So really, it's this back and forth interplay between the focus mode and the diffuse mode that makes this technique so powerful for solving tough problems. But it also comes with an additional benefit in that it helps you use your time effectively, which is really important in a test when you have a limited amount of time, but it also can apply to your homework. Yes, you don't have a limited amount of time per se with your homework assignments, but you do want to get them done faster, and this technique can do that for you. I do have one little caveat though. With your homework, spend a little bit more time trying to solve a tough problem once you get stuck. Don't disengage after 1 or 2 minutes. My reason for this is that with a test, you should ideally have those concepts buried somewhere in the back of your mind. But with your homework, that's really the training ground where you're going to build that initial understanding of those core concepts. So in that situation, spend a little bit more time wrestling with those problems before stepping away and letting the diffuse mode take over. My next tip is something that you should apply while you're in class, and it's going to be especially useful for when you're taking math classes or physics classes, or really any kind of class where you're applying concepts and trying to solve complex problems. When your professor or your teacher is going through an example problem on the board or guiding you through the process, make sure that you're writing down every single step of that example problem. This is incredibly important to do because there is a huge gap between being able to follow along with what someone else is doing and understand it and being able to do it on your own. And you probably can think of many times in the past where you've gone through example problems in class, your professor is guiding you through them, and you understand everything, but then you come to your homework later on, it's using the same exact concepts, but then you're stuck. Now, I know that I used to get really frustrated in these kind of situations, but it's just a reality of the skill building process. It's just like watching somebody do a skateboard trick and trying to do it on your own. You have to build that muscle memory, and it takes a long time and a lot of deliberate practice. So think of those example problems in your notes as the equivalent to having like a YouTube video of someone doing a kickflip. The more camera angles you have of that person doing the kickflip, the more easily you'll be able to see what's going on and what you're doing wrong. It's the same story with your notes. If you have a one-for-one representation of exactly what the professor did on the board, you're going going to be able to go line by line through it and see exactly where you're confused. And don't just stop at those example problems themselves. While you're in class, for each step in the problem, ask yourself, do I truly understand what's going on here? And if you don't, simply draw a little arrow and make a little note in the margins that explains it so you'll know later while you're trying to implement it. Finally, one additional tip for finishing those homework assignments more quickly is to try doing your homework at school. When I was in college, I would occasionally have semesters where there was like a 1 to 2 hour gap between my last class of the day and the class that came before it. And this actually turned out to be a pretty good situation because I was basically gonna stay on campus for those 2 hours. I wasn't gonna go home. And really the only thing to do was my homework. Now having that gap of time where I had to be at a class within 2 hours created a little bit of time pressure that made me work more efficiently. But also, being on campus, I was in the right context to do the work. Because I don't know about you, but when I come home, the last thing I want to do is work. This is the complete wrong context for it. This is where my bed is, where my video games are, where my kitchen is. There's all sorts of different things that I want to be doing. But at school, it's a totally different story. Now, maybe you are different. Maybe you do like to work at home. And if that's the case, I do have one additional tip for you. Instead of doing your entire homework assignment at school, take some time as soon as you can after class to simply preview your assignments. When I was writing the script for this video, I talked with my friend Martin and I asked him what caused you to spend more time on homework than you would have liked. And he said the main thing was that he had to spend a ton of time trying to refamiliarize himself with the requirements of the assignment, figuring out all the places in his textbooks and notes that he had to reference, and it just took a lot of time to set up and it would demotivate him. Now, if you want to cut down that lag time, then as soon as you can after class, spend just a few minutes going through the details of the assignment. Mentally note the concepts that are going to be covered, and then note where in your textbook and your notes that you're going to need to reference. And if you want to take this a step further, you can actually get these little plastic sticky book notes, and you can go to those spots in your notes, mark them, so that way when you come home and start working on your assignment, you can easily turn right to the exact page. Now, once you've mastered the art of finishing your homework assignments quickly, the next challenge is deciding what to do with all the time you've gained. And of course, you could spend some of that time playing Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is exactly what I'm gonna go do after I finish filming this video. But you might also dedicate a portion of that time to building a skill that you've always wanted to learn, like learning how to edit videos or design graphics or build iPhone apps. And if you wanna build that skill quickly, just like you finish those homework assignments quickly, then a great place to start learning is over at Skillshare. This week, I wanna highlight one of the newest courses on Skillshare, which is Phil Ebener's complete beginner's course on Adobe Photoshop. Now, I am not much of a photographer, but as a YouTuber, I've had to learn the ins and outs of Photoshop to create my thumbnails. And you might think that making a thumbnail is pretty easy, but for me at least, it's actually a pretty complicated process to get something that really stands out on the YouTube homepage. After I've got the picture I wanna use, I have to cut myself out of the background cleanly using the selection and masking tools. I have to add a colored background and set its blending mode, and then I have to add shapes and text. And these are all skills that took me quite a while to learn, but they are also all skills that are covered comprehensively in Phil's course. So if you're a budding YouTuber and you want to improve the graphic design on your channel, which I can tell you from personal experience matters a lot, or if you're just a photographer and you want to learn how to correctly color grade your photos, you can take that course and amp your skills really quickly. And if there's something else you want to learn, then Skillshare's library of over 17,000 hands-on practical courses is almost guaranteed to have you covered. Membership on Skillshare starts at about $10 a month, which is right around the cost of 2 lattes, though I have checked and sadly they don't take payment in lattes. But the first 500 people that go down in the description below and click that link will get a 2-month free trial of unlimited learning. So definitely go check it out. Big thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video and helping to support this channel. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Now, if you have something I didn't mention in this video that would be helpful to other people, definitely go leave it in the comments below and give this video a like if you liked it. And if you didn't, you know what to do. Otherwise, you can subscribe right there for new videos every single week, or you can go right there to get a free copy of my book on earning better grades. You should also check out this week's podcast episode where we talk about 10 essential life skills that every student should know. This is one of my favorite recent episodes, so definitely go give it a listen, or you can find another video on this channel by clicking right there. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week.